And now we return to the life of Theodor Herzl. The future posthumous founding father of Israel has just landed his first full-time job. And not just any full-time job. He's now the Paris correspondent for one of Vienna's leading newspapers. This places him front and center to witness one of the worst political scandals and miscarriages of justice in the history of France, the Dreyfus Affair. As Herzl reports on France's national tantrum, he himself accelerates into some sort of acute, manic episode, locking himself away in his hotel room for 2 weeks. Unlike France's nervous breakdown, Herzl's would go on to change the world.
Benedict and Bacher, two rotund men wearing very similar suits. Benedict and Bacher are two sides of the same brain, the great businessman editor team that runs one of Vienna's most important daily newspapers, the New Free Press.
I'm just asking, are you sure he's ready? As far as I can ascertain, he's never had a real job, and when I first asked him about having a regular role in the paper, he replied, I'm not used to a regular routine.
You saw the essays and all the comments that we've been getting from them. What he's been doing for the travel essay is similar to what Bach did for music.
Yes, but I mean Paris correspondent? It's only perhaps the most important position in the whole paper.
Experience can be acquired, unlike talent.
I love having a full-time job. It's a wonderful relief. There's absolutely no time for introspection, no time for self-pity. I have 2 deadlines per day. Every day I attend the Chamber of Deputies in the Palais Bourbon. Take my word for it, the Paris Parliament in general is no parliament at all. It's a stage. 533 parliamentarians? No. Those are 533 actors. Take it from me, I know. It's good theater. They do high drama as well as lowbrow farce. As an artist, I feel far more qualified to deal with politics than some narrow-minded pedant of a specialist.
Benedict! He's never filed a dispatch in his life.
Everywhere I've ever been, I felt like an outsider. And I feel like an outsider here, too. But the difference is that I'm a foreign correspondent now. It's my job not to fit in.
His sentences are impeccable even when he's in a rush.
French democracy is a wonder. Under universal suffrage, a butler's vote counts no less than a moron's, and every bit as much as Alexander Dumas'. Unlike rural Austrian peasants, rural French peasants read the same newspapers as the city folk. I'm in Lille, stronghold of the socialists. Just attended a rally, heard Paul Lafarge speak. He's married to Karl Marx's daughter, Eleanor. The task of orators such as this one is to help the suffering masses through a dark night by duping them with fairy tales and promises, gory, appealing fantasies.
I must say, he certainly seems to be getting the hang of it.
He continues to surprise. The latest reportage she's been sending in about Ravachol, it's totally juvenile and yet riveting.
Hysteria is sweeping Paris. What Paris really needs right now, in my opinion, is a good tyrant. After the second bomb went off, the police prefect personally ran to the scene of the crime. The investigation is being vigorously pursued. The authorities are anxious to catch the perpetrators. But everyone knows the ringleader is Ravachol. Ravachol. Who is this Ravachol? Is he a hero or a murderer? A villain or a dreamer? Is he a dissident anarchist or just another terrorist? He is a robber and an assassin out of his love for the poor and the downtrodden. The ordinary killer rushes off to the brothel with his booty. Ravachol has discovered lust of a different kind, the voluptuous pleasure of a great idea.
He certainly seems to be getting the hang of it.
This next one is about what Paris is like under the reign of Ravachol. It's crazed and delicious.
Paris, under the reign of Ravachol's terror, affects everyone. The snooty owner of a luxury hotel is being humbled by the precipitous departure of all his scared wealthy guests. Then there's the sudden generosity of strolling gentlemen towards any beggar who accosts them, and a little boy is being scolded by his parents and being told that Ravachol will come and get him if he doesn't mind his manners. Then a romantic couple attending a ball are in a sudden turmoil as he turns to her and asks,
Don't you feel anything for me?
No, not for you.
Ah, there's someone else. Is he here at the ball?
No.
What does he look like? What's so special about him?
He has what women love. He makes me shiver and dream.
I suppose you won't tell me his name.
Oh, yes, I will. Ravachol. I told him. More. The main thing is food for the wide-open maws of curiosity. If there's no time to bake, then for God's sake send in the raw ingredients, no matter how raw. The readers are eating it up.
Well, he took your word for it. Did you read this one that just came in? It's all about a soiree he attended last night at Doge's.
Doge? What's he doing with one of France's leading anti-Semitic intellectuals?
They're pals, apparently.
Theodor, by the way, I'd love to read some of your plays sometime.
Ah, Doge, my plays? I've forgotten all about them. All that remains is a little love for art and an occasional twinge of nostalgia for literature. Being a journalist takes its toll.
Theodor, I have great admiration for you. You are the kind of Jew that comes along once in a lifetime. Because you get it.
And may I say, Doge, that I find French anti-Semites to be more kind-hearted than those in other countries. I think it's wonderful how you, for instance, are even willing to admit that Jews, too, are human beings.
Well, there is a core common sense in us French and a love of justice. This is, after all, the land of liberty, fraternity, and equality.
But still, when I look at us through your eyes, I do hate what I see.
Well, of course.
To help mend matters, I've been thinking that when the outbreak of the next war occurs, every respectable Jew, whether healthy or sick, must volunteer for frontline service, even if previously found unfit.
It's the very least that you rancid parasites can do. More tea?
Oh, yes, thank you. Even the most haggard Jews must drag themselves to the recruiting stations, serve in the armies of their present fatherland.
Stepfatherland.
Right. We all have to serve, and if on opposite sides, shoot at one another.
Thus would be the beginning of the Jewish honor.
Indeed.
Something's wrong. I'm worried about him.
Okay, let's go over it again.
Good God, he's temperamental, and that morbid imagination of his.
From the top.
Well, first of all, he asked me why we refused to print the word Zionism.
Is he mad? We're a newspaper owned by Jews, written by Jews, and read by Jews. We're the last ones in the world who could ever print the word Zionism. But he already knows that. Do you think he's trying to prove some kind of a point by asking the question in the first place?
And then get this, in his latest dispatch, he quotes that cockamamie prison guard story like it was a fact.
You mean that story about Captain Dreyfus telling his prison guard that he's being persecuted because he's a Jew?
Yes, that one.
Well, Theodor knows damn well that that's a cockamamie story.
All right, I know he does. Tell him. He's supposed to know what he's supposed to know already.
It's clear as day and everyone knows it. Dreyfus is being persecuted because he's a Jew. And that's why the voices of truth and justice can't be raised on his behalf.
But in the meantime, Dreyfus has never once brought any of this up.
And Dreyfus never will. Captain Dreyfus is all about honor and all that. He's commanded by honor codes. And he's definitely assimilated, very status conscious. He's more French than they are. And his love for France knows no bounds. That's why charging Dreyfus with espionage is particularly absurd. Whoever framed him did a lousy job.
But it's equally ridiculous for Theodor to think that a status-conscious captain of the French army would ever confide anything to an enlisted man, let alone a prison guard who's guarding him.
Well, for goodness sakes, Theodor knows all that. He knows the whole story is just a far-fetched rumor. Why is he stating it as if it were fact in his column? What's he up to?
I'm telling you, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with him.
Good God, he's temperamental.
And worth it.
The degradation of Captain Dreyfus on this dreary morning drew a crowd of curious onlookers drawn to the inner courtyard of the École Militaire. Soldiers, some who had brought their ladies, brought Dreyfus before the general, who declared,
Alfred Dreyfus, you are unworthy to bear arms. I hereby degrade you in the name of the French people. Let the judgment be executed.
Thereupon Dreyfus raised his right hand and shouted,
I swear and declare that you are degrading an innocent man. Vive la France!
With that, the drums began to roll, and the military bailiff tore the already loosened buttons and straps from the uniform. Dreyfus maintained his proud bearing, and the procedure was completed within a few minutes. Now began the ordeal of Dreyfus filing past the troops. The numerous officers, along with some of their ladies, yelled out at Dreyfus as Dreyfus passed by them.
Judas, traitor, scum!
Dreyfus marched like a man convinced of his innocence. He shouted back,
I forbid you to insult me.
After 20 minutes of this, Dreyfus was shackled and turned over to the gendarmes, who will from now on treat him as a civilian prisoner. Those of us who had just witnessed it left in a curious state of agitation. The strangely resolute attitude of the degraded captain had made a deep impression on many of the eyewitnesses.
I told you there's something wrong, and whatever it is, it's getting worse.
What is it now?
He's missed this morning's deadline.
Theodor?
Yes.
That's impossible.
It's happened. It's probably the first time in his life, but it's happened.
Doge. Guess what? The other day, for the first time in my adult life, I went to synagogue services. I found them to be solemn and moving. I was brought back to my youth and past. I feel as if I want to do something for the Jews, but not actually have to be one while doing it.
No, that's certainly understandable.
I was thinking about traveling and writing a magnum opus of investigative reporting about the injustices that Jews are suffering all over the world.
Is it going to be a novel?
No, I want to write a book for men. I want it to be something that will cause animated discussions in the cafes of Vienna.
But a novel has so much more impact. Look at the Uncle Tom's Cabin. In any case, am I right in assuming, my friend, that you have been reviving long-buried ambitions of being an author?
Yes, it's true, Dade. The theater on which I have so resolutely turned my back continues to lure me.
Well, even as a journalist, you seem to instinctively see and interpret events in terms of their stage effects and dramatic impact.
Yes, greater songs still slumber on these steely strings, Dade. If ever I can free myself from daily drudgery, I'll devote myself to higher things. I still have an entire springtime within me. Perhaps someday it will yet burst into bloom. I became unsure again late last night, but this morning I am again rock hard. Gentiles in similar circumstances would be cheerful and lively. Jews get depressed. I'm fully aware that much of what I've written is wild and fantastic. Late last night I convinced myself that this is all just a good premise for a novel. I started out writing a novel. I thought I was writing a novel about a man who, through the vicissitudes of life, is led to found the promised land. Just how I got from the fictional ideas to the practical ideas is still a mystery to me. Oh, great. You're here. Here you go. Here's these papers. And thanks again for filling in for me at the office. Again.
Sure. Is there someone else in here?
No.
Thought I heard you talking, and I thought perhaps you were talking to someone else.
No, I'm alone.
Theodor, are you all right? Are you ill?
No.
It's just that I'm a little worried about you. You're You're always so careful with your appearance, so pristine always, and I've just never seen you look like this.
I'm fine. I'm just, I'm working on something that urgently has to be finished.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Oh.
I'm afraid life for me has ended and world history begun. Anyway, bye and thanks again. Sorry for the interruption. Now, where were we? We have much to cover. Yes, well, as I was saying, the emancipation of the Jews has been a complete failure. Ever since we've been let out of the ghetto, anti-Semitism has only gotten worse. It's more clear than ever before that the only possibility for Jews to live in peace and dignity is to have a country of their own. Let the German Kaiser say to me, "I'll be grateful to you if you get these unassimilatable people out of here." The Jewish question will be settled on a final note of reconciliation. We part as friends from our enemies. This will be the beginning of Jewish honor. And from then on, Germany will be known as a great ally of the Jews. I am of the firm belief that we should model our Constitution on that of medieval Venice and profit from the Venetians' experience. When it occurred to me that someday I might be crowning my son, Hans, as the Doge, and that in the temple before the leaders of the nation, I would address him as, "Your Highness, my dear son," I had tears in my eyes. However, if the Rothschilds join us, then the first Doge will be a Rothschild. I myself shall never be a Doge because I want to lead the country beyond my lifetime. Okay, and when I meet with the Rothschilds, I'll begin this way. To the Rothschild Family Council, I am starting with you because I don't need a major ruckus before I have my cadres in place, and also because it will give me a better chance to lead the exodus of the masses without loss of property or life. In fact, between you and me, the exodus led by Moses bears the same relation to this project as a tiny, intimate Shrovetide play by Hans Sachs does to an epic Wagner opera. I've opted for the rule of Jewish aristocracy because I need a flexible government for the future. Monarchy would lead to revolution, and let's face it, we're not sufficiently virtuous to qualify for democracy. Keep the army well in hand. All officials to wear uniforms, smart, soldierly, but not ridiculous. There'll be a huge public works program. We must train our boys to be warriors. Training by patriotic songs, the Maccabees, of course, and with stage plays about heroic themes and honor. Oh yes, and back to the uniform for a moment. The high priest will wear impressive vestments. Our cavalry will wear yellow trousers, white tunics, the officers silver breastplates. Oh, and the first senator will be my father. And this is how I shall punish suicide. For an unsuccessful attempt, lifelong confinement to a lunatic asylum. Successful suicides will be refused an honorable burial. Of course, I'll also have to deal right away with Gudeman. Good old Gudeman! Perhaps I should start with him. Not only because he's the chief rabbi of Vienna, but also because he has many necessary contacts. Gudeman, you will be our capital's first bishop. You'll track down and give a job to anyone who at any time in the past may have wronged me and therefore does not dare approach me. Because I have to be the first to set an example of magnanimity. We face bitter struggles ahead, with rueful pharaohs, with enemies, and most of all with ourselves. The golden calf. Do I have to remind you about that one? But far-sighted and determined, we shall prevail if we have the support of our people and if they understand our lofty aims. If we will it, it is no dream. Damn, time to go. Damn it, dinner at the Shifts. I told them I'd be there weeks ago, I agreed. Their in-laws are in town. Oh, but there is still so much to cover. An entire lifetime won't suffice to carry it all out. But I am leaving a spiritual legacy. To whom? To all people everywhere. I believe I shall rank among mankind's greatest benefactors. Or is this belief already a symptom of megalomania? Dinner at the Shifts? Well, I've been invited. I said yes at the time. Damn it. Who knows when? Damn, dinner over at the Shifts. Well, I must keep up appearances, I suppose. After all, I can't mobilize a mass exodus of all the Jews from Europe from behind a closed door. In the Tuileries, I've come across a statue of Gambetta. Important note. I hope that when the Jews put one up for me, it'll be in better taste. Ah, the Opera House. Yes, yes. We too are going to have such resplendent halls. Men in formal black tie, ladies in high fashion. Yes, I want to make use of everything, including the Jewish love of luxury. I take it for granted that the majority of the world's Jews, once acquainted with my plan, will find the prospect of freedom irresistible and head en masse to the New Jerusalem, wherever it might end up being. My best guess is that we'll either end up in sparsely populated areas of South America, or we'll find some isolated patch of Canada. Dinner at the Schiff's? Oh no! And on top of everything else, their in-laws are visiting. Affluent, well-educated, subdued people. They softly bemoaned anti-Semitism, to which I kept coming back all the time. Dinner at the Schiff's? I'm sitting here like a red-hot body, being plunged into a bucket of cold water. From the moment their dinner banter began, my world shattered. Quiet, timid, no imagination, ghetto-natured, ghetto-trained, their lack of spirit drains me, and most of our people are like this. They'll never heed the call for freedom and dignity. They'll just call me crazy. They're not just gonna pick up everything and move to Canada. They're not gonna pick up anything and move anywhere. They think they have all the time in the world.
Herzl's warning to the Jews came just 30 years before Hitler. Dear listener, you be the judge. Are we listening to a story that proves once and for all that neurosis is just a mislabeled psychedelic trip? Or is this, once again, the random choreography that is history losing a step? Tune in for the next episode when the final months of this gestation will lead to this birth of the new ghetto.